New York, 9:30 a.m. The Manhattan District Court courtroom is packed. Cameras, reporters, a crowd of supporters and opponents of Donald Trump, all waiting for the hearing to begin. Today, the former president is scheduled to testify in a financial fraud case, but no one could have imagined that the hearing would turn into the biggest legal scandal of the decade. As soon as Trump entered the courtroom, dressed in his trademark dark suit and red tie, the atmosphere became tense. His lawyer whispered something feverishly in his ear, and prosecutors exchanged glances. But the first explosion occurred when the judge called a witness to the stand, a mysterious informant whose name was kept secret until the last moment. The door opened, and in walked Melania Trump. Silence covered the courtroom like a blast wave. Donald instantly blushed and clenched his fists. The reporters nearly fell from their seats. The judge barely concealed his shock. "This is some kind of mistake," Trump growled, rising to his feet. But Melania just glared at him coldly and took her place on the witness stand. "I came to tell the truth." The courtroom erupted in cheers. The judge demanded silence, the lawyers looked at each other in panic, and Trump's eyes turned pale. What could his own wife have said? And why had she appeared now? But that was only the beginning. The real chaos began in a few minutes. The courtroom was still tensely silent. The judge banged his gavel several times, demanding order, but even he could not hide his own curiosity. "Mrs. Trump," the prosecutor said, "are you claiming to have information relevant to this case?" Melania looked at her husband. Her face was impassive, but her eyes shone with cold anger. "Yes. And this information will shock you." Trump, who had been sitting there with his fists clenched, suddenly couldn't stand it anymore. "Melania, what are you doing? This is all a conspiracy, this is a show, you know it's a lie," he shouted, standing up. The judge slammed the gavel again. "Mr. Trump, one more violation, and I will have to remove you." Melania took a breath, and then said something that made everyone hold their breath. "I personally saw Donald falsify financial documents. I heard his phone conversations with people who are not here now, but who played a key role in this case. He lied to me, he lied to the country, and he lied to this court." The courtroom exploded. Reporters immediately ran to send urgent news. Trump's lawyer grabbed his head, and Trump himself. "This is treason," he shouted and, unable to restrain himself, threw a glass of water on the floor. The bailiffs rushed to him, preparing to intervene. But before that, something even more unexpected happened. A blonde in sunglasses rose from the back row of the hall. "And now it's my turn to speak," she announced, taking off her glasses. It was Stormy Daniels. Everyone gasped. Even the judge was momentarily speechless. "I know even more than Melania. And since we're here, let's tell the truth." Trump grabbed his head, the judge had to bang the gavel again, and the crowd of journalists almost broke down the door trying to broadcast the news live. And that wasn't the worst of it. As soon as Stormy Daniels took off her glasses, the courtroom erupted into chaos. Cameras were clicking, reporters were milling around, lawyers were looking at each other in confusion. Trump, who had been yelling at Melania a moment earlier, was now petrified. "Your Honor, this is a circus," his lawyer finally blurted out. "A circus?" Stormy asked, raising an eyebrow sarcastically. "No, this is just the beginning of the show." The judge wiped his forehead, clearly unprepared for such drama, but nodded anyway. "Miss Daniels, what do you want to tell the court?" Stormy walked to the podium and slowly looked at Trump. "I'm here to tell you how he not only bribed me, but also used that money to cover up even more dangerous cases." The courtroom erupted even louder. Trump jumped up, his face turning red. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, Donald," Stormy rolled her eyes theatrically, "let's not play these games. I know you remember." The prosecutor stood up. Miss Daniels, are you saying you have evidence of Mr. Trump's financial misdeeds? Stormy pulled out her phone. Not just evidence. I have voicemails. Trump flinched, his lawyer nearly fainting. The judge threatened the bailiffs that he would throw everyone out if the noise didn't stop. I think it's time for everyone to hear the truth, Stormy said, opening the audio file. But as soon as she pressed play, something unexpected happened. The back door of the courtroom suddenly opened, and in rushed people in black suits with FBI badges. Everyone in your place, the agent's voice rang out. The courtroom erupted in panic. What else happened? As soon as the FBI agents burst into the room, the atmosphere became tense to the point of boiling. People froze in their places, some pulled out their phones to film, some clutched their heads in shock. The judge banged his gavel, but no one listened to him anymore. FBI? Seriously? Trump exclaimed, jumping to his feet. What else is this setup? The lead agent, a tall man in a dark suit, glared at him coldly. Mr. Trump, we have a warrant for the immediate seizure of certain evidence in this case. Everyone please remain in your seats. Stormy Daniels still had her phone in her hands, but the FBI agents immediately headed for her. We need to take this device away, Miss Daniels. No way, she said indignantly. This is evidence, I'm not giving it away for nothing. At that moment, Trump suddenly did something unexpected. He turned sharply, grabbed his briefcase and rushed to the exit. Stop him, one of the agents shouted. Bailiffs and agents rushed after him, but Trump, despite his age, ran surprisingly fast. He jumped out into the courtroom, pushing everyone he got in his way. Reporters and lawyers ran in panic. He's running, one of the CNN cameramen shouted. Meanwhile, in the courtroom, Stormy tried to hand the phone to the prosecutor, but one of the agents snatched it right out of her hands. Excuse me, this is a federal case, evidence is being seized. This is crazy. Melania exclaimed, still sitting in place, shocked by what was happening. Meanwhile, Trump was already bursting through the main entrance of the courthouse. A black car was waiting for him at the exit, the driver was already opening the door. Don't let him escape, the FBI agent shouted. Trump, sweaty and irritated, burst into the black car. His driver, a burly man in sunglasses, had already opened the door, ready to take off. Come on, let's get out of here. Trump growled, jumping into the car. The FBI agents rushed after him, but as soon as one of them had time to touch the door, the car abruptly pulled away, leaving clouds of smoke behind it. Damn! He's getting away, the agent shouted. The car sped through the streets of New York, cutting through the flow of traffic. Inside, Trump was breathing heavily, wiping his forehead. If they think they can put me in that easily, they don't know anything about Donald Trump. The driver just nodded silently and stepped on the gas. But a few minutes later, something strange happened. The car suddenly turned into a dark alley, where there were no cameras or people. What's going on? Where are we going? Trump panicked. The driver turned around and took off his glasses. Hello, Donald. Trump stared. It was Michael Cohen, his former lawyer, who had once covered up his shady dealings and was now one of the prosecution's key witnesses. What the? Trump began, but he couldn't finish because the car door suddenly locked. Now it's my turn to dictate the rules, Donald. Cohen smiled. I have something you're definitely not going to like. Trump tried to open the door, but nothing worked. He was trapped. Meanwhile, in the courtroom, Stormy Daniels demanded her phone back. Melania silently watched as the FBI seized evidence, and prosecutors tried to figure out where the main defendant had disappeared to. Trump was trapped. The car was parked in a dark alley, the doors locked, and his former associate, who had once carried out his orders and had now become his worst nightmare, was driving. Cohen, what the hell? Let me go now. Trump tried to remain calm, but panic was already creeping into his voice. Michael Cohen just smiled and turned on the recording on his phone. "Do you hear that voice, Donald?" A familiar hoarse mumble came from the speaker. It was Trump himself, and he was saying something compromising. "We have to cover it up. Let them take the money and shut up. No one will know." Trump paled. "What is this? It's a fake." "I didn't say that." "Oh, you did. And this conversation is just the tip of the iceberg." Cohen put away the phone. "The FBI will have these recordings in a few minutes. And you know what the most interesting thing is? This isn't even the worst thing they're going to find out." Trump felt sweat trickle down his back. "You wouldn't do this. We were friends." Cohen shook his head. "No, Donald. We were never friends. I've just covered up your crimes for too long. But today, that's going to change." He pressed a button and the car door unlocked. "You have two choices, either you get out and turn yourself in, or the FBI will find you and arrest you right here. The choice is yours." Trump froze. He couldn't believe it had come to this. Meanwhile, in court, the FBI had already begun to decrypt Stormy Daniels' phone. Melania silently left the room without looking back. Prosecutors were reviewing documents that revealed even more schemes. An hour later, Trump appeared in front of the main entrance of the courthouse. His face was gloomy, his tie was untied. The reporters jumped out of their seats, the cameras turned on. "Mr. Trump, what do you say to your acquittal?" He just sighed. "It's all a conspiracy." But within minutes, the bailiffs were handcuffing him. The end of the Trump era had come. And this time, no amount of money or connections could save him.